I'll read my bio. For as long as I can remember, I've been an avid reader and lover of books. So it was only natural that I made the transition to book reviewing on Instagram via a community known as bookstagram. So when I'm not reading case law and drafting legal advice in my day job as a commercial lawyer, I'm reading new release fiction and non-fiction sent to me by publishers to publicise on my account. So today I'm going to be speaking about using Bookstagram as a marketing tool for writers. Okay, I'll just quickly share my screen. Oh, Anna, I just might need to be made presenter.
You should be able to share now.
Awesome.
Is that working now? There we go.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, cool. Can you see my screen there?
Perfect.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Great. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm really excited to be here today amongst some very talented company. So thank you very much to Matt and Louise for inviting me to contribute. If you haven't already recognised the mutuality in surname, Louise is my mum. So thanks, Mum, for inviting me. So as I mentioned before, I'm here today to offer some insights into the world of Bookstagram, which is, I guess, a bit of a different angle than the majority of presenters today. But I hope the content is useful for budding or established writers as a new and interesting way to publicise your work. So my account name is Books with Leash, which is here down below, which you can find me on Instagram. By way of background, I started the account in May last year as a creative outlet in the middle of lockdown. My account has grown steadily since then, and about 6 months into being on Bookstagram, I started to receive review copies of new release books from publishers to read and review on my page. So it's been a bit of a win-win. You know, I get to read new releases, and publishers and authors get to have their work publicised on my page. I wouldn't be a lawyer if I didn't include a bit of a disclaimer as well. So that's just the third dot point here. I'll be speaking a lot about kind of Instagram analytics and marketing, but obviously it's just from my own personal experience. I'm not a kind of marketing expert, but yeah, I've kind of been able to gather a bit of an insight into content creating and using Instagram as a marketing tool as well. Okay, so let's get started. Aside from the actual process, the actual writing process, publicity and marketing is a whole new kettle of fish for authors and can present, I guess, a subset of problems that authors need to overcome. Firstly, contrary to popular belief, going down the traditional publishing route doesn't mean that you don't have to play a part in marketing. Many publishers now expect authors themselves to help with the book's publicity. I also hear that many authors find opportunities for advanced sales quite limited, and it can be difficult to build credibility amongst readers as a budding author. So I present to you a partial solution. In my eyes, there's three main perks of Bookstagram for writers. So firstly, if you kind of create a Bookstagram account yourself, you can use that account to market your own work. Secondly, and kind of one of the main perks that I'll be discussing today is the opportunity for Bookstagrammers to read and review your work and publicize it on their page. And finally, the opportunity to network with other writers. I've come across so many writers on Bookstagram who have kind of both a joint reading and writing page. And I know that that's been really a really powerful tool for writers to network and gain those connections that can be quite hard, especially in this climate. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to discuss is using the Business Insights tool on Bookstagram. The Business Insights function is available to those with a professional Instagram account, which is free to switch over to, because the default is that you have a personal account. The insights provide you with specific data about your followers, which can allow you to customize your content according to their demographic. And I hear that, obviously my mum's an author, so I hear that one of the kind of hardest things for writers is knowing your audience. And I really believe that this tool can help plug that gap. So for writers, this means you can really understand where your audience is coming from, what kind of posts they gravitate towards, and what their age demographic is, their location, all of those really important things that can help you craft the right story for the right audience. Okay, so I think there's 3 steps in how to clock this business insights function on Instagram. So the first one is actually switching to a professional account. I'll obviously be open to questions afterwards, so I won't go into this in too much detail, but you can see here it's really simple. You just go into your settings, then into account, and then switch account type. So it's really, really easy to make that switch. I will note, though, that some businesses decide not to make the switch to a professional Instagram account because kind of the Instagram algorithm limits the amount that is seen of business posts. So sometimes, your engagement might be limited, and obviously that is kind of contrary to what you want on a content creating platform. That being said, me personally, I feel like the benefits outweigh the negatives here, and I'm able to really cater my content directly towards the people who are looking at my stuff. And that's really useful for me as a creator. So step number 2 is understanding how to actually read the insights on your grid. So as you can see here, this is what the business insights main page looks like. So in the middle there, I'd click insights, and then I'm open to like a plethora of information about my followers. So for example, you can see how many accounts you've reached in the last 7 days and what your interactions have been like. This kind of data is really helpful for me as a reviewer, this is the kind of information that I pass on to publishers if I want to, be put on a publicity database, or if I want like a new release book, I can provide them with that kind of detail, and that tells them this is the kind of foot traffic I'm having on my account, and this is why, my platform will be a great place to publicize this material. For writers, I think these 3 screenshots would be most helpful. So you can figure out, your gender demographic as well. And I think the best part here is looking at your followers' most active times. So you can obviously post the content at the times that they're most active. And if you click the days part here, that tells you, maybe, my followers are most active on Friday nights at 6 p.m. So obviously I'm going to be posting my content at Friday night at 6 p.m. because I'm probably going to get the most engagement at that time. Same over here, you can have a look to see what kind of posts your followers gravitate towards. And then over here again, some data that you can pass on to your publishers, or, if you're giving talks or anything, these are really good stats to hold. So yeah, that's kind of me as a non-marketing professional, how I use those stats. I'm sure there are kind of many other ways, but I think that's been a really useful thing for me as a content creator. And this is a bit of an overview of the stats that I have. So the age range of my followers is 23 to 34. I have 89.5% women, 10.5% men, and this is where they all come from. So that's obviously means, and I kind of said this to my friends earlier, that I really like feminist texts, and that's helpful for me to know that there's going to be a lot of people who will be interested in that kind of content. So I'm, more inclined to post that. Okay, so that's kind of business insights on your grid. The next part is understanding the insights function on your stories. Now, I'm sure you all know what stories are, but if you don't, it's just a kind of 24-hour snapshot piece of content, and so it disappears after 24 hours. So you might, show your writing process on the stories, or you might, give a little sneak peek of something that you're working on, and then that disappears in 24 hours. The good thing about the insights function is you can actually have a look to see how people are engaging with that content as well. So as you can see here, you can see if you've tagged something, a publisher or someone in your story, you can see how many people, clicked on that sticker, how many people visited your profile after they saw your story, how many people exited the story, all of that kind of good stuff. So that's another really helpful aspect of the business insights. Okay. So the last thing I'd like to speak about today is engaging with reviewers on Bookstagram. So before I get into it, I wanted to quickly touch on some terminology. I know we have a couple of Bookstagrammers in the audience here today, so you'll know that, well, for me anyway, it was kind of a new language when I first came into Bookstagram, and everyone uses all these acronyms. So I thought I'd give a quick overview of what they mean. So an ARC is an advanced reader's copy, and this is a copy of a book given prior to the book's pub date. So you might have kind of pre-publication marketing, or being able to gain hype. If there are any Sally Rooney fans in the audience, you'll know how insane the marketing has been for Beautiful World, Where Are You?, which is her newest novel. And that was loads and loads of kind of pre-publication marketing. And now all the bookstores are sold out. And so they did a really good job. The next one is review copies. So that's just copies given to reviewers after its pub date. I've been saying pub day a lot, but that's obviously self-explanatory, just a shortened way of saying publication date. DNF means did not finish. So if if a reviewer didn't gel with the book, or if they didn't finish it, they'll say, oh, it was a DNF for me. And last one is TW or CW, which are trigger warnings and content warnings. These acronyms are gaining a lot of traction on Bookstagram at the moment. And an interesting little tidbit for you writers out there as well, a lot of reviewers are advocating for trigger warnings to be placed at the start of books in order for people to be aware of potentially triggering content. So that's something that for you to consider in your next book if you're dealing with triggering content. Okay, so now to the actual engaging with reviewers. I think the first thing and the most important thing to know is that not all Bookstagrammers will accept review copies. Some prefer to work directly through publishers. Others prefer not to review copies at all. They're just on Bookstagram to post about books. But in my opinion, there's no harm in asking. And, a lot of people will be really stoked and really happy to review your work for you. The first thing that I'd do if I was a writer reaching out to potential Bookstagrammers, I would check their follow account, because obviously, the more followers means the more publicity you're going to be having once they write their review. But obviously, that's not the be all and end all, but it's something to consider. The next one is to actually research their page and see if your book is going to interest them. It's probably going to limit the amount of no's that you get as well, because if you're looking at if you're creating work that actually gels with that person's interest, they're going to want to review your work for you. And then lastly, make contact. So the most common way to contact a Bookstagrammer is through direct message on Instagram. And these are the forms of Bookstagram marketing that you can, ask for if a reviewer does agree to read and review your work. So you can ask for stories. You can say, would you mind posting one story and one grid post, or, whatever you'd like and whatever you think would be helpful for you and your work. So, for example, this is a book that I got from Allen and Unwin, and they sent it to me prior to its pub date. So I publicised it on my stories to kind of help it gain traction. And then obviously just plain old grid posts. So, I'll write a review of a book, and some publishers also provide a second copy of a book for the reviewers to give away, which is just another way to gain some engagement. Okay, that's it for now. That's all of the content that I had prepared. I did want to flag quickly at the end that I'm not currently accepting any copies for review, but there's a plethora. The bookstagram community is ginormous, so there's definitely going to be people out there who would be willing to read and review your work.